people can see the replay. I am gonna, let's see if I can get this live stream going in my Facebook group.
I'll go ahead and mute myself so any background noise doesn't interrupt.
Appreciate that, brother. Appreciate it. Let's see, where we at? Page. Sales and all right, looks like we ain't gonna get the Facebook group though. No worries. Anyway, appreciate both you guys being here. Anybody watching the replay, I definitely appreciate y'all watching the replay as well. Let me see if I can get this screen shared. Zoom always giving me problems. All right, here we go. So here we're talking about being fit over 40. So again, appreciate both you guys being here. And really my intention for this call, for both y'all on here, for anyone watching the replay, I really want to come from a place of giving value. Right? I know when you tend to opt into things like this, like these little webinars, Zoom trainings, masterclass, whatever people are doing, I know sometimes on your end, you can feel a little bit of skepticism, like, all right, you know, they're really going to help me out? Is like, what is this? Is this a bait and switch kind of thing? Like, I understand anybody going into something like this with that type of mentality, but really I want to come from a place of value. I want to really treat you guys the same way I would treat a client. So I know sometimes you can get on these webinars that kind of dance around the points and they're not really being straightforward with the information that they're teaching. You know, sometimes it's just alluding to a product and stuff like that. So I just want to come on here out front. Yeah, the most salesy thing you'll hear me say on this is, yeah, dude, I do have a program. Like, I'm not gonna lie about that. And I'm not gonna do some big ass sales pitch at the end like a lot of these things do. But I will give you guys an opportunity if you'd like to learn a little bit more about me and what I do and see how I can help you guys get to your goals, man. I'll be open to that conversation. And you know, if that's something y'all are open to at the end, I'll leave it open. We can set up a time to talk. But other than that, man, it's straight value from here on out. So you guys cool if I hop into the topic here? Give me a thumbs up, drop something in the chat. Y'all
Fair enough.
All right, let's go. So topic for today's video, fit over 40. Dave, I know you said you're like 36. So I know you said you're 36. Jacob, I'm not sure how old you are. I think you just saw this post. What's that?
I'm 31.
31. So you're a little younger, but I think this information will still be of value because, you know, spoiler alert, the fundamentals are the same for everyone, right? So fit over 40. I chose this topic because I hear a lot of guys complaining about this, and we'll get into that. But really here to talk about how my clients are consistently losing 5 pounds a month without restrictive dieting or endless hours in the gym. So I budgeted out 90 minutes for this. Not really sure how long this is going to take, but you know, we'll get into it. So here's what we're going to talk about today. Just a few different topics I've laid out. So definitely want to talk about the 7 deadly sins of health transformation after 40. Obviously, you're not going to die if you do these things, but just things I've noticed get in the way for this group of guys. Biggest secret to boosting your metabolism after 40. Key habits you must adopt if you want to get in the best shape of your life after 40. And then I want to teach you guys the exact nutrition hierarchy I teach my clients. So kind of putting you guys in perspective. Like, all right, this is what I would tell somebody on their day one. Like, this is how we want to approach nutrition. Because I feel like there's a lot of nonsense out of there that we've got to work through, a lot of unlearning we've got to do for a lot of these things. And then I'll open it up for Q&A at the end. I know some of you guys may have questions out there. Leave it open for an Ask Me Anything, you know, whatever we got time for. So who this training is for? You know, this training's for you if you feel like you've tried everything, right? Like I talk to people every day who are like, oh, you know, I've tried keto diet, I've tried vegan, I've tried 75 hard. You tried everything and you feel like you're just not getting to your results. Or you're getting to your result. Maybe you lose 20 pounds, lose 30 pounds, and you're not staying there, right? It's something you have a hard time keeping over time. If you're tired of feeling like it's hopeless at this stage of your life. So I know in the title, I said fit over 40. You know, that can really apply at any age. Jacob, Dave, I know both you guys are younger. You're not even 40 yet, but you know, I think this will still be a value for you if you're approaching that age. I know sometimes people deal with these limiting beliefs when they turn 30. You know, I'm 26 now, and it's like, I definitely got a lot of friends who are a little bit older than me. Maybe they played sports growing up, and after they're done playing sports, they kind of fall into that mentality that it's all supposed to go downhill from there. So if you're tired of feeling like it's hopeless at your age, or, you know, oh, you're not getting any younger, like if you've kind of struggled with that mentality, this training is going to be for you. People like you guys who want to get ahead of that quote unquote decline. Like both of you guys are in your 30s, you're still young, but at the same time, sometimes it's not about waiting until life slows down. It's about getting ahead of the curve, and just the best time to start. Yeah, best time to start was yesterday. Second best time to start is now. So just kind of getting ahead of those things. And then lastly, if you're the type of person who has the work ethic, but you don't necessarily know what to do, you don't know how to approach your goals. You feel like you tried everything, you're scrambling, you're willing to put in the work, but whatever you're doing in the past hasn't worked, or hasn't worked sustainably, that kind of thing. So why is this stuff important? Why I think this is important, like as a coach, is just because most people aren't teaching you this stuff. Like if you go to LA Fitness, like I do posts about this stuff all the time, but it's like, if you guys go to LA Fitness, talk to a personal trainer there, you sit down, you have your consultation, and you talk to a nutritionist, probably going to hand you a meal plan, probably going to hand you something very scripted, probably not going to teach you about how the process works. They're not going to talk to you about the underlying concepts. And that's kind of like a hole I see in the fitness industry, right? A lot of people talking about strategies and techniques and things like that. And then because you don't have a full understanding of the underlying concepts, because you don't understand the full process, it causes you to attach to a specific method instead of doing something that's actually sustainable for you, customizing the process for yourself, that kind of thing. Secondly, definitely want to simplify the process, make it less overwhelming. I really do feel like a lot of people are out there reinventing the wheel, doing a lot of things. Fitness marketers doing it, personal trainers doing it. Like people just talking circles around everybody and making this stuff seem a lot more complicated than it really is. And naturally, I'm sure both of you guys are very busy. If this is something that's not your utmost highest priority, like it is for somebody who does this for a living, it's like as soon as you get overwhelmed and this stuff gets super complicated, especially this time of year, the first thing you're going to do is just say, fuck it, I'm not doing this. Like, or this can wait until next week or next year, whatever the case is, right? So definitely want to simplify the process for you guys, make it a little less overwhelming. Thirdly, we want to change how you think about the process so that you can have sustainable results. A lot of people go in with this crash and burn mentality. Oh, I'm just going to go super hard until this deadline. Especially my type A guys, very all or nothing with their health and fitness goals. I want to do 75 hard, lose 30 pounds, get to this deadline. And then it's like, okay, then what? Right? So change how you think about the process. Understand that it is a long game. Understand that this is something we need to constantly work at over time. Understand we're not going to be perfect with this stuff. And the reason I say, lastly, because you probably don't want to go more than 5 pounds a month, right? Like I said in the title, how my clients are consistently losing, clients over 40, consistently losing 5 pounds a month without restrictive diets, without endless amounts of cardio and workouts in the gym. 5 pounds doesn't really sound that flashy. It doesn't get people that excited. 5 pounds a month doesn't really sound like a lot. But when you do that consistently and you compound those results, a lot of people would be at their goals in a year or less, right? If they just applied these principles and did them consistently enough to see the progress. And I think a common mistake a lot of guys make is they go way too hard too soon. They're trying to lose 10, 15 pounds in a month. And it's like, that may work the first month, but it doesn't always work over time. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And for me, you hit the nail on the head when you said, right now I realize how blessed I am to just be able to be functional and capable. Like I need to get ahead of that curve of decline or whatnot. So I'm just even more better off later on in life. So it makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Appreciate that, Jacob. Yeah. Once again, guys, I definitely appreciate y'all being here this time of year. This is the hardest time of year to stay on track. It's the hardest time to start a fitness journey. This is when most people are checking out. They're in the holiday mode. I'm sure you guys have noticed it at work. It's just everybody's ready to relax. And for y'all to be here on a Wednesday evening, there's a million things y'all could be doing right now other than, learning about this stuff, trying to get ahead of the curve, right? Both of y'all. So appreciate you sharing, Jacob. Yeah, definitely getting ahead of the curve is something we could do. Like a lot of people are like, I'll wait till the kids are a certain age, or I'll wait until this and that. And then when they get to said age, when they think they're going to have more time, a lot of times they're just like, now it's too late, so they kind of feel a little helpless there. So yeah. So Dave, what about you? Any takeaways from this? Anything that you're thinking like, yeah, I kind of thought that way before?
Yeah, man. I'll lose some weight, but it's never sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
One of my biggest issues is I just cannot stand working out. It's so boring and monotonous to me. I would much rather, go into the woods, cut up a tree and get my workout that way, but I'm out of trees now.
Yeah. You can cut down the whole forest, man.
I done ran out of all the fallen trees, so I don't want to cut down the good ones.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, you're gonna need some firewood, man.
Yep.
Cool. Dave, Jacob, I want this to be a little interactive since it's just a few of us here. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm talking at you guys and boring you guys to death with information. I do want this to be interactive. So any takeaways you guys have, drop them in the chat or come off mute, hop in. I'd love to hear from y'all. I'll stop every now and then for like takeaways, questions, if I feel like I'm talking too much or too long. But I appreciate the interaction, man. It keeps this type of thing engaging. So I'm gonna jump in, man. First thing we're gonna talk about: 7 deadly sins of health habit transformation after 40. So guys, this is stuff that I've noticed in conversations I have every day with guys that age, or even just my clients on a daily basis. Like, they've probably made one, if not more, of these mistakes in the past, whether that's in terms of their thinking, in terms of what they've done, in terms of things they've tried that didn't work. These are the 7 deadly sins. I'm sure I could find a lot more. It's just a little catchy title for y'all, right? 7 deadly sins. So first thing is thinking you're an anomaly, thinking you're an exception, thinking you're a special case, you're different. This is one that plagues a lot of people, not just guys over 40, but I think more specifically, we could look at guys saying things like, nothing works for me. Or they think they get to a certain age and, I've tried everything, nothing's going to work. When in actuality, a lot of the things that they're doing are not working because they're not practicing the right underlying concepts with them. Like, they say keto doesn't work, or they say this, like these diets don't work. It's because they're not applying the right fundamentals to their situation. And there are no new fundamentals. The things that work for me at 26 work for you. Jacob, I think you said 31 or 32. Dave, would work for you at 36, would work for certain clients I have that are over 40. The same fundamentals exist all around. So I'd say deadly sin number 1 is thinking that you're an exception, thinking that the rules don't apply to you just because you're whatever label you give yourself. I'm 40 years old, so that makes me different from, that means the same health concepts that apply to you are different from me. Like, no, that's not the case. I know that's what fitness marketing would like you guys to believe, or supplement companies and all this. They would like you to believe that because it sells their product, but that's just not the case. And I can thinking about an exception for me. Guys, I was in high school, I was 70 pounds. I'm sitting there labeling myself a hard gainer, thinking that because I label myself as a hard gainer and I couldn't put on muscle, couldn't put on weight, I'm thinking I'm an exception. I'm thinking there's something wrong with me personally. And it wasn't until I accepted responsibility to learn the fundamentals that I'm gonna teach y'all today that I realized, damn, these are the same fundamentals that apply to anybody. It's just about the level of consistency that you apply them with that actually determine your results. So there's nothing special about turning 40, turning 35, turning 30, being a hard gainer, being somebody who has a hard time putting on weight, whatever the case is for your goals. The first way you can pigeonhole yourself, or the biggest way you're going to pigeonhole yourself, is thinking that you're a special case, thinking that the rules and the fundamentals don't apply to you. So if I could drive anything home to y'all today, there's no new fundamentals. The things I would teach a 26-year-old how to do with their fitness, the same things that would apply to you guys in terms of the science of how this stuff actually works. And sometimes people don't like hearing that because it just forces them to kind of own their shit. But I think I like hearing that, because what it does is it puts you in the driver's seat. And that's my goal, man. I'm not about here, yeah, both you guys on here. I'm not here to play the victim. I'm not here to, accept all the BS that the fitness industry has taught you guys. I want to put you guys in the driver's seat. And if we can accept responsibility for decisions that lead us to this point, if this is something we struggle with, I think putting you guys in the driver's seat is the best way to go. Accepting full responsibility, realizing you're not an exception, and understanding, damn, I can actually do something about this, right? Just having that belief. And it just accepting responsibility puts you in the driver's seat, and it's empowering. That's the word I'm looking for. It's empowering to be able to know that, man, this is something I have full control over. So I want to hear from y'all. Is this something you guys have struggled with? Maybe thinking you're an exception? If not, that's fine as well. I'm not forcing these points on you guys, but because there may be some things I say where you're like, yeah, I really relate to number 2, but number 6, nah, that wasn't really me. But just curious to hear from y'all. Either drop in the chat, come off mute. Is this something you guys struggle with?
I was gonna say, I don't think I'm an exception. Mm-hmm. I just love food, and I hate working out. Mm-hmm. I did a program with this app called Noom.
Heard of that? Yeah.
And I learned a whole lot about just nutrition in general, caloric intake, mm-hmm. good and bad carbs, all that. I don't know what my disconnect was, but after about 8 months, something came up and I didn't record on the app that day, and then 2 days, and then 4 days, and then and then I realized that my app renewed and charged me another $170, and I forgot about it completely.
Oh man, that's rough. Yeah, dude, I see it too much, man. Dave, you ever play sports growing up or no?
Oh yeah, I was hockey all the way.
All right, so you're an athlete. Do you identify with that all in, all out mentality? Like, dude, if you're on point, you're on point. But then like one day throws you off, and then one day turns into two, and then next thing you know, it's a week or a month you're not doing. Yeah. Dude, I see that all the time, bro, with athletes. It's like specifically athletes. I don't know. It's just that perfectionist type of mentality. Like, yo, when I'm locked in, I'm ready to go. But otherwise, it's easy to justify not doing the work.
Yeah, once I have a solid schedule built and it becomes a routine, if something changes in that routine, it throws the whole routine off, and then it's out the window until Absolutely. I get back on that schedule.
Right. Instead of just accepting the imperfection, it's like, all right, if I can't do the schedule to the highest level, I'm not going to do it at all. Like
exactly.
Absolutely. What about you, Jacob? Just curious to hear if you can, something you can relate to. Maybe you've labeled yourself.
I can completely relate to Dave. I think food is one of my weaknesses. It's like one of my vices when I'm stressed or whatnot.
Sure.
And then I do come from a sports background. I played football and did wrestling and track. And I think one of the things I've noticed lately is that, going to the gym by myself is cool, but being part of a group is what kind of keeps me motivated. Sure. So I try to go to like group workouts to kind of keep me in going. And then when I fall out of routine, I do have those moments where I'm like, oh, I'll just take a day off or another. But I tell myself, if I take days off, then later when I try to get back into it, I'm going to be so much more sore those days after. And that's what's been keeping me going right now.
Yeah, it's like you almost don't want to take the time off because well, damn, last time I took 5 days off, man, I was sore as hell on leg day coming back. It's best to not even get out of the routine.
Exactly.
Appreciate y'all sharing. Yeah, it seems like y'all share a commonality there. And dude, I can relate to that too. Like even just with tracking my food, if I miss a day, it's so easy for me to miss the second day. It's like that's the start of a new habit. So I always have a rule with myself. It's like I'll try my best never let myself miss 2 days. If I miss one, whether it's a workout, a day of tracking food, or whatever the case is, yeah, I'll miss one. But the second day, that's a trend in the wrong direction, right? So it's not about, and that's something I tell my clients all the time. It's like, it's not about never falling off. You guys are all going to fuck up at some point. I do it too. It's not about never messing up and being perfect. It's about getting back on track when you inevitably do. Like you are going to fall off. It's about doing it as fast, getting back on track as fast as possible. So make the next right decision. I've seen this happen so many times where guys they'll mess up at breakfast, and then they let the rest of the day go to shit, drinking alcohol, ordering pizza. They let their eating go off the rails the rest of the day or the rest of the week because they made one bad decision and it spiraled out of control. So just make the next right decision and get back on track. That's how we usually handle that. Number 2, second deadly sin, second biggest mistake I see guys make over 40 who want to get in the best shape of their lives is negative self-talk. I put self here, negative self-talk and limiting beliefs, right? Just buying into your own stories that you've told yourself. And it's not always your fault. A lot of it's just things that you've read online, YouTube videos you've seen, the family member who tells you some BS and they don't really know what they're talking about, coworkers complaining, friends complaining who are in similar situations. Like when you talk to a lot of guys out of 40 who don't like the shape that they're in, they will not accept responsibility for their decisions. They'd rather tell you things like, your metabolism slows down when you get older, right? Like, getting old sucks. It's just the way it has to be. But we can think of countless examples in the world where that's just not the case. So we know something's off. It's not, the story's not adding up. And I think this is a common misconception people have is just because you turn a certain age, whether 30, 40, 50, whatever number people have in their head, that just because you turn that age, your metabolism automatically slows down. Like it's just clockwork, right? But that's not the case. In actuality, there is no difference between your metabolism between ages. It's more so about the lifestyle factors. So if your metabolism did slow down, it's because of the way you're living, the choices you've made, the habits you have up to this point. So I'll give you an example. You take somebody who was an athlete in their 20s, like both of you guys. If your metabolism slowed down or you're having trouble losing weight, it's not that your metabolism physically slowed down because you just got older. It probably slowed down because of the fact that, number one, you stopped playing sports. I don't know if you guys have kids, but it's like you have kids, you have a family, you have more stressful things going on. You guys have a full-time job. It takes probably more than 40 hours a week and it's stressful. Maybe you sleep less than 8 hours a day. Maybe you drink a lot more coffee, less water, right? All these things compounded, less active, not working out. These things are going to be what affects your metabolism. It's not necessarily just the fact that you've gotten older. It's just the fact that you've stopped doing the things that made you successful up to that point. You know what I mean? So this is also a good thing to discover, because it's like, wow, it puts me back in the driver's seat. You know, this means I have full control over this stuff. You know, we don't have control over whether or not we get older, obviously, but we do have control over how often we execute on the fundamentals, the things that are actually going to boost our metabolism, if that makes sense. And obviously help us lose weight in this case. So I'll give y'all an example. Meet Chip. So Chip is one of my clients. You know, he's been awesome to work with. I've been working with him for over a year. This is a guy who used to tell himself this. He used to tell himself, you know, just a part of getting older. It's something that your metabolism slows down when you get older. So he came to me at 52 years old with no experience with fitness at all. You know, like he had 2 kids, a wife, busy career in real estate. He didn't prioritize his health at all during his 20s, 30s, and 40s, right? Until, you know, it comes time where he's got things going on in his personal life, and he just decides at 52 years old, hey, I just need to get my health in check. You know, he had a lot of things going on in the background I won't disclose, but he wanted to make a change. He wanted to make a transformation. He decided he was tired of living the way he was, and he was open to looking at this stuff a different way, right? Not accepting what society tells you about, oh, when you get older, it's this and that. Like, he was just ready to put in the work. And a year later, this is not that long of a time. You would think at 52 years old, it would take a lot longer, but just him consistently executing on the fundamentals we're going to talk about today. Now he's got visible abs a year later at 53 years old. So it's like, man, if Chip can do it, anyone can. You know, he's somebody who came in not knowing what a lot of things were, but he was just open to learning, and he was open to doing this stuff a different way, a different approach. And he was just ready to, you know, put in the work consistently. And that's all I ask. So a year later, man, this is where he is. Number 3, waiting until life slows down to take this stuff seriously. That's another number 3 cardinal sin or deadly sin that guys over 40 do. You know, you know, my kids are young. I got to wait until they're not newborns anymore. Then when they're 5 years old, you know, I'll wait till they're middle school, high school. You know, I'll just wait until I'm an empty nester and they're out the house. And then by then, 40s, 50s, and you may feel like it's too late, even though it's not, but it just creates the illusion like, damn, I've waited on this stuff. And I think it's just better to get ahead of it like you guys are at this age and just decide to make the decision now, because if you're waiting for life to slow down, something will always get in the way. Right? Like, I'll give you guys an example. I had the best grades I've ever had in college when I was taking more credits. When I had less credits, I used to give myself less credits because I thought that I would have more time to study, I'd get better grades. But I noticed that when I gave myself more time, I would fill my time with more nonsense. Right? I'd be playing video games, I'd be socializing, drinking, relaxing more, taking naps, doing things I didn't normally do when I was busier. Right? So it almost behooves you to just learn to deal with the time management and priority management skills to make this stuff a priority and stop waiting for life to slow down to take care of that as well. That makes sense, y'all? I want to hear from y'all. I'll stop there. Out of points number 2 or 3, anything hit home with you guys? Anything that you guys can maybe relate to or resonate with?
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. One of the reasons I asked to be on this, even though I'm not over 40, is, you know, my goal is to go into 40 as fit as possible, not try to start at 40.
Not that it's a problem if you do, but it's like, why not get ahead if you can?
Well, yeah. I mean, the longer I wait, the more weight I'm going to add. You know,
Sure.
And you know, my day-to-day life, you know, I feel it in my joints, and I don't want to be 40 years old and aching and all that crap. So I'd rather be ahead of the ball. You know,
yeah,
no better time than the present.
For sure. Appreciate you sharing that, Dave. And that's something I think about a lot too. It's like people say things like, oh, I'll wait until after the holidays, or I'll wait until said age to start prioritizing stuff. And in a perfect world, that sounds okay, because in a perfect world, you're just going to stay where you are, and then you just get to work when things slow down. But in actuality, if you've written off anything having to do with your health, you're probably not going to stay still. You're probably going to go in the wrong direction because you wrote it off. You said, hey, this is not a priority right now. I'll get to it when I get to it. And then because you're just however many years or however many days and weeks and months that you're not doing the right things, you're probably going in the wrong direction. And for every step in the wrong direction is another 2 you have to take in the right direction just to get back to baseline. So I get what you're saying when you say, like, yeah, like it's better to get ahead of this stuff than waiting until it gets even harder to deal with, you know?
That, and it's also pretty depressing to not love your body, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm tired of that.
Yeah. No, I hear you, bro. I hear you, man. Hear it all the time. Jacob, what about you, man? Anything resonate with points number 2 and 3? Point number 2 being self-talk. Go ahead.
The timeline, like New Year's is around the corner. A lot of people say, okay, I'm going to make this my New Year's resolution to hit the gym. And then if you're at a gym, you always find like in the first week of the gym, it's packed, like everyone's in there. And I told myself like 5 weeks ago, I'm like, no, I'm not waiting for this New Year's resolution. This resolution starting now, Yeah. I'm not making that excuse. And the hardest part at first for me was just showing up, just making it to the gym. And then, I found that, once I started doing stuff, I'm like, I could do this other workout too. And next thing you know, I'm like, dang, I really killed it today,
All right. So love it.
That's something I've been thinking about.
Yeah, dude, I love that. A couple things stand out about that, Jacob. Number one, just the fact that you kind of took the novelty out of the new year. I think we put so much big deal energy into the new year and New Year, like it's some special time to start on anything. Like, no, it's just another day. Starting now is no different from starting then. The only difference is you're starting a little earlier and you have to navigate 2 holidays. But in the grand scheme of things, starting earlier was probably better for you because now you've been putting work up until those holidays. But anyway, so that's the first thing. The second thing is just you're building the habit of showing up. It's almost like you're casting votes for that identity you're trying to create for yourself, right? Even if you're not doing anything crazy, just the fact that you're showing up and keeping your word to yourself is what builds confidence in this stuff over time. So appreciate y'all sharing that, man. Where we at? Yeah. Mistake number 4, a lot of guys over 40 make. It's kind of like what Dave was talking about in terms of just waiting until you get to a certain age. Is some people will say they want to get ahead of it and then they'll put it off and procrastinate. And the more you wait, the harder it gets. And then they don't ever get started because they feel like they're behind without realizing that they could turn it around really quickly. Like my man Chip, if he could go back, he would probably have started earlier, but he waited until he was 52. It is what it is. And, a year later, he's in the best shape of his life. And now I work with his son too, who's 25, and he's like jealous of his abs. It's like, you would never think like, damn, my 52-year-old dad is in better shape than me at 25. Like it's just stuff you don't see every day. So I think a lot of guys don't realize that they can turn this stuff around as quickly as they can, even just losing 5 pounds a month. Like a lot of you guys be to your goals in less than a year. So what if you took this seriously for a year? What if I told you that if you did that, you could be in a completely different spot? All right. Number 5 kind of goes along with number 4. It's like number 4 is either never getting around to it because I feel like it's too late. Number 5, the biggest mistake guys make is trying to make up for lost time by doing something extreme. And this is when guys kind of fall into this anomaly. It kind of goes back with number 1 as well, thinking they're a special case, thinking they're not an anomaly. And it's like, I spent so much time not doing anything because I'm trying to make up for lost time. Let me go ahead and do something extreme. Let me go ahead and do keto. Let me do 75 hard. Let me cut all my carbs out. And let me try to lose the weight fast because I'm trying to make up for lost time. I'm trying to make up for what I didn't do in my 20s and 30s and into my 40s. So I need to make up for lost time and get in the best shape of my life really quick. And, listening to the fitness industry, feeling like, I've got to fire up my metabolism. Got to eat 6 meals a day. Got to do this, got to do that. Got to do fasted cardio. Then they overwhelm themselves and they either don't stick to it because it's just not sustainable for them, or they think they're a special case because it doesn't work. Like they cut their carbs and they're not losing weight, or they stall out or whatever. And then they're like, it's because I'm getting older, right? They go back to blaming the stories, blaming the whatever special case they think they are, right? When in actuality, if they just stuck to the fundamentals and they did them consistently, they'd be where they want to be. It just might take a little bit longer. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not longer because all the back and forth doesn't work. So all these points are kind of related in a way, but I've seen this one come up a lot, just thinking you're a special case and working really hard in the short term without realizing how it affects you in the long term. Number 6, being afraid to lift weights. And this is one I've seen a lot, especially with guys over 40, because a lot of them have been conditioned to believe that you're not allowed to lift weights anymore once you hit a certain age. Like, I don't know where that came from, but just the same way people say, if you're a kid and you lift weights, you're going to stunt your growth, kind of like a little myth there. People think the same thing or something similar when you get to a certain age. And this actually happened to Chip. Chip was the client I just showed y'all. You know, he's 52, he's 53 now, but he was 52 lifting weights, and he posted a picture of himself on Facebook for his network to see of him lifting weights, doing deadlifts. And one of his friends that he knew, I'm sure it was a harmless comment, but he commented on the picture and was like, dude, deadlifting is bad for your back. You know, you shouldn't do that. You're going to get hurt, blah, blah, blah. Like just putting all this negative energy into what he was doing, even though he had never gotten hurt deadlifting before because he was doing it properly. So I think people were missing a lot of context there. You know, this guy was just projecting onto Chip because maybe he got hurt deadlifting one time. And then he decided, oh, it's bad for you if you're over 40. Like he decided to just make that story up in his head and project it on other people. And obviously that's not the only example I've seen. I see it happen to a lot of people. People come up to me in the gym and say, oh, you know, you're lifting these weights now, but when you get to my age, you won't be able to do it anymore, right? Like people just put this story out, and it's just for why they're not doing stuff like this. And second part to that is I'd say another big mistake, and I've just seen this come up with clients a lot, is a lot of people associate lifting weights with bulking up, and then they associate cardio with weight loss. Like for example, they'll think, oh, you're only supposed to lift weights if you're trying to gain weight, gain muscle, whereas you're only doing cardio, you should be losing weight. Well, like I can see why people think that, but my philosophy with coaching is normally I have people lifting weights, and I'll tell y'all why in a second. I have people lifting weights even when they're losing weight, because those goals are kind of, they work hand in hand. So Dave, I know you said personally you don't like lifting weights. I mean, not lifting weights. I know you said you don't like working out, and I'm not sure if that was coming from a place of you just don't like doing any exercise, or if that was coming from a place of maybe you thought that in order to get closer to your goals, you had to do a bunch of cardio and you don't like cardio specifically. So, yeah, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that.
I do absolutely despise cardio.
Okay, well, good.
100%.
It's not exercise, it's cardio.
But yeah, I don't like working. It's just, you know, like, let's just use bench press for an example, you know, up and down, up and down, up and down, you know, it's boring to me. It doesn't feel like it's never been a challenge or anything that's like working my mind.
Repetitive.
Yeah. And it just, you know, it's one of those I just kind of drone out, and I'm like, God, this is just boring. Is it over yet?
Okay. When you go to the gym and you do a bench press, for example, I know you're just hypothetically speaking, do you typically go in there and just do the same weight, the same reps, the same sets every week? Is that why it's boring, or are you finding new ways to challenge yourself on the bench press? Like, all right, maybe if I improve my form this week, maybe if I add 5 pounds to this set, you know, get stronger over time.
Like, to be honest with you, the last time I worked out was quite some time ago, probably about 10 years ago. And I had a personal trainer, and I know every week we were adding weight. But yeah, it just never did anything for me. Like, oh wow, yeah, I added 5 pounds this week, or woohoo, you know?
Yeah, I feel you, man. Yeah, not everybody's like a fan of it. I feel that.
And I'm also like a huge instant gratification. So, you know,
oh yeah,
if I go to the gym for 2 weeks and I don't come home looking 100% ripped,
oh yeah,
I'm really down on myself about it. I'm like, man.
Yeah, Dave, it's funny you say that, man. I feel like 50% of my job is just getting people to stop thinking that way. Like, dude, it's a process. Like literally just repeating, yo, this is a process. You know, you're making steps in the right direction. Because man, like, especially my athletes, especially guys who are kind of saying similar things as you in terms of just being all or nothing with the schedule, things like that.
Yeah.
They tend to think that way. It's like a pattern of thought, like instant gratification. You know, it's hard to see it any other way. Like when you want something,
it's more or less like an ADD mindset, you know?
Yeah.
Like I want it now because I'm going to forget about it in 5 minutes anyways.
Right. So if I don't get it now, if I don't get the results now, I might as well pack it up.
Yeah. I'm going to go eat that ice cream now.
Yeah, right. Because that's got your attention now. Yeah, I hear you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the other part. Like just reminding people, hey, you're on a journey. Remember that. You're on a journey right now. Jacob, what about you, man? Is this anything that you relate to in terms of just maybe not enjoying the workouts, being afraid to lift weights, or?
Yeah, I think you like overdoing it in the beginning. You know, sometimes I've seen friends really overdo it in the beginning, and then they find themselves getting injured. You know, because they're that guy who's doing the back workout and like using his whole body because he's doing too much, Yeah, one of those. And you're like, oh my gosh, this man's lower back is gonna kill tomorrow. Like, what is he doing? Or and then also the like getting your form. I was scared of doing weights like benching or deadlifting, because I know people have like herniated disc or all these other issues or hernias or whatnot, and I'm just like, oh man, I don't even want to risk that. But then, as I've gone in with a personal trainer and have someone look at my form, I'm like, wow, this is actually really good, to do. But I was so scared of like doing it wrong to where I would never like touch it.
So it's almost like you are holding yourself back in a way of the progress you could be making just because you didn't want to mess up and get, like, understandably so, like nobody wants to get hurt, obviously, but it's like, wow, a whole side of the gym is locked down because you're like, I don't want to go in there and get hurt or do it wrong or not have the right program. So yeah, I think it's good to challenge yourself in that way, but obviously doing it, easing your way into it for sure.
Yeah. And with a personal trainer, I've realized I'm stronger than I think I am. Basically, he's like, how about we max out this thing? I'm like, you sure? He's like, yeah. And then I find myself maxing out something and I'm like, what? Okay, I can do this. And it just helps me boost that confidence to keep going.
Yeah, right. Like maybe you wouldn't push yourself that hard on your own, but having somebody there to spot you, like, yo, if it all goes south, they're gonna spot you. Like, it's okay. And it's encouraging you in the moment for sure. Okay. So yeah. And just I guess 0.6.5 here. So I did promise I was going to talking about the biggest secret to boosting your metabolism here, and that's going to be building muscle. I think a lot of people look towards supplements and look towards age and look towards all these things that are beyond their control to boost their metabolism. All these like little techniques. The best way to build your metabolism, regardless of your age, is actually building muscle. And there's a reason for this, obviously. So proper strength training. So that's why I brought up point number 6 here. Proper strength training, whether you're trying to gain weight or lose weight, proper strength training, even if you're in a deficit and you're losing weight, you're probably going to build some muscle if it's not something you've done consistently for a long time. Proper strength training is going to equate to more muscle built. More muscle built, which is the same thing as your lean mass, means higher metabolism, because the more muscle you have on your frame, the more calories your body requires to like stay put and function on a daily basis. So that higher metabolism is going to equate to more calories burned at rest without you having to do anything. So a lot of guys are worried about cardio and how much calories they burn on doing this and that. It's like, yeah, you could go in the gym and burn 500 calories on the treadmill. It's going to take you a really long time. Or you could work towards half hour a day, 45 minutes a day, a few times a week, building muscle, trying to get some strength training. Not only are you going to burn calories in that session, but the long-term effect of you building that muscle over time is going to improve your metabolism in a way that cardio won't. Right? So you're going to just burn more calories in general. And you'll notice these things kind of happen simultaneously. Not to say you're going to turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger if you touch a weight, but at the same time, working towards strength training, I think, is a much more effective way to go about it. Not to say cardio doesn't have a place, but I would say this is the biggest secret that like a lot of fitness people, a lot of like, I guess, fitness marketers of these big brands, they're not telling you stuff like this because it hurts what they're trying to sell. So I think strength training is going to be the most effective, or just the general premise of building muscle in general is going to be the most effective way to improve your metabolism, regardless of your age, under or over 40. And it's a long game. It takes a while, but like I said, we're here for the long game and the long-term effects from that. Number 7, biggest mistake I see guys over 40 make is not setting proper goals or expectations, right? In terms of goals, I just mean they'll say a lot of things that aren't really compelling. Like they don't have a real goal. They're just saying, I should probably get back in the gym, right? Like you hear how that vague and uncertain that is. Like you hear it in my voice. It's just very uncertain. I should probably get back in the gym instead of setting a real goal. So I would say setting a realistic goal in an unrealistic timeline is another mistake. Like they want to lose 30 pounds, but they want to do it in a month. And then they get disappointed when they only lose 5 or when they're not, moving towards that. And then the third mistake there is just not giving yourself grace to mess up. So like Dave and I talked, both you guys, what we just talked about a minute ago in terms of like wanting to be perfect with this stuff. And then when you mess up one day, you kind of let that turn into a week. I say, man, just dust yourself off, give yourself grace. It's okay that you messed up. It happens, and just get back on track. Right. But not setting these proper goals or expectations is what shoots these guys in the foot in terms of sticking to anything. Like they get in their own way in a sense. So what we should do instead, I think that's the next slide, is set proper goals. I know we've heard of SMART goals, right? Like I don't even remember what it stands for, but tangible. We want to make sure it's three things. It's tangible, meaning like, all right, I want to lose 20 pounds, right? Like that's tangible to something we can measure. We want a nice target. Not that this number on the scale has to be the most important thing, because for a lot of people it isn't. More so how they look and how they feel is. But saying I want to lose 20 pounds, I want to lose 30 pounds, whatever it is, it gives you something that's tangible, something you can actually go after, a direction, a target to move towards, a way to measure it so that you know whether you're on course or off course. Not necessarily to put a lot of stock into the number itself, but it gives you a way to measure it. Have a time frame. And I always say there's no unrealistic goals, only unrealistic time frames or timelines. You know, like I said, people want to lose 30 pounds in a month and then they can't keep that rate up over time, or they kill themselves to get there and then they put the weight back on. Maybe y'all have made that mistake before, but give yourself a time frame. Okay, 20 pounds in 6 months is solid. You know, it's slow, it's steady, it's consistent. Just so you guys know, I like to go with the guideline of like pound to 2 pounds a week. And that's very realistic. It's very sustainable, depending on how heavy or how light you are. You know, that number is going to change for everyone. So have a time frame because it gives you a sense of urgency and it gives you a way to measure it, obviously. And then number 3, it's got to be emotionally compelling. And when I say emotionally compelling, I don't mean it has to be changing the world or it has to be some noble cause that's like super selfless. Sometimes it can be simple as like something vain, or it can be something as simple as just you liking what you see in the mirror. Like whatever it is, it's got to be important to you. Don't worry about how it sounds to other people, how it sounds to me, how it sounds to your significant other, how it sounds to the people around you. Whatever it is, whatever your reason for it is, it's got to be compelling to you, and it's got to make you want to get up off your ass and do the work, right? Because if it's not, if you're just saying what you think people want to hear, or you're doing it for reasons that aren't really true to what you want, or you don't really have a compelling reason because nobody's asked you about it, or you've never really thought about it or written it down, I'd say it makes it a lot harder to actually follow through with this stuff. You may find that you're doing this stuff for a week and you're good, and then you fall off because you forgot your why, or you never really had one. And then setting proper expectations. This is a huge one because I see people mess this up all the time. They think this stuff, they think they have to be perfect because they think this stuff, this problem is solved in a quicker time frame than it actually is. So the way I look at transformation, if we're talking about just a physical, mental transformation, it's going to happen in 3 stages. The first phase is going to be habits. This is where when you're building habits, this is where you're getting results. Like the physical, I lost 5, 10 pounds. Like you're getting results. Habits is good and it'll get you results. That can take anywhere from 1 to 6 months, I guess, depending on how consistent you are with your actions. I look at habits as doing something until you get it right. Doing something until you get it right. Like being competent with something, maybe your first time doing it. Think about practicing the piano or playing basketball. Like you may suck at first, but then you get a little better. Like you're building habits, and that's what's going to get you results up front. That's going to build confidence. But I'd say we haven't solved the problem here. This is where people go wrong, because they think, oh, just because I built some habits, I did 75 hard and I finished it. Just because I built a few cool habits in a few months, all right, my problem's solved. I never have to worry about it again. Well, that's where this second phase comes in, lifestyle. You know, this is where you're going to build routines. Like you're building some actual structure to what you do. You're not just doing the right things. You're doing it in a sequence. You have routines built. It's a standard that you wake up to every day. You know, this is something that can take up to a year. This is doing something until you can't get it wrong. Right? Like habits is doing something until you get it right. See the difference here. Lifestyle is doing something until you can't get it wrong. Like you can't see yourself doing it any other way. And I'll see this with my guys who are like, you know, we first start and they're like, at first I didn't like the gym. There was no way I could see myself in there. And then a year in, or maybe 9 months in or whatever, they're like, man, I can't see myself not going to the gym because I've just been doing it so many times. Like I used to mess it up at first with my food tracking, but now I can't mess it up because I've done it so many times, right? There's no difference between these 2 phases, is you've just been doing the same things for a lot longer, right? Phase 3 here, identity. This is where you're building rituals around what you do. This can take up to 3 years, you know, sometimes a little bit less depending on how consistent you are, but this is doing something until it becomes a part of who you are. You know, this is where I look at like brushing your teeth, for an example. None of us on this Zoom call right now have to think about brushing our teeth. But if you got kids who are really young, they have to think about it. You've got to remind them to do it because it's not a ritual yet. It's not an identity yet. But for us, it's something we do morning and night without even thinking about it. It's a part of who we are. It's our identity. I know it's a silly example, but you know, it's just how I want you guys to visualize this stuff. So takeaway is there. Questions, takeaways on that first section. I know we spent a little bit of time on that, but just curious to hear your feedback.
In terms of the metabolism, I completely agree with that. Adding muscle is definitely key. I think a lot of times I've tried to get back in the gym. Like, I actually enjoy cardio. Like, I could be on the elliptical for like an hour or an hour and a half, or some of the gyms I've gone to, they have these cardio theaters, and I'll just watch a whole movie on the elliptical. But like, that's the only thing I've been doing. But lately, well, more in the past month or so, I do my lifting and then I hit my cardio. So, and I've noticed that I'm getting way better results like that, and I'm enjoying, the ride up to it. And then my trainer, like, he'll say, like, I'm bulking up, and like, so you can gain muscle or get leaner later. I'm like, well, I guess I've already bulked up in some way, so I might as well take the advantage of being able to build muscle like fast because I have like this base or whatnot.
Right.
So
makes sense. So you built the base strength training and size, and now it's like, now you're just shredding the fat. And it's like, when you expose all that, you're going to look the way you want. Like, I know, this big mistake. I'm glad you're doing both. Like, you're doing a nice combination of both, because what I've seen, especially guys I've worked with in the past, they've been like, they've lost the weight and they've gotten to their goal weight, but because they didn't do any strength training, they don't look the way that they want to look. Like, you lost the weight, but then they're like a twig, or they look like a marathon runner. And if that's not the physique that they're going for, like, if that is, fine, but a lot of times it's not. And then they don't look the way they want to look because they weren't doing any strength training while they were doing weight loss. Right. So it's important to do this stuff, all year round, like, if that's an important goal to you.
exactly. And I co-own a supplement company, so it's like, I know all about the supplements and everything, but I know, at the end of the day, if the pharmaceutical industry could capture the benefits of like what working out could do, then the medical field would be bankrupt. So
right. They told people what really was supposed to happen, right? It's like, in supplements, it's just supplement. It's just that, like, it's a supplement. It's not to substitute for what you do on a daily basis. It's just supposed to add to it. So if you're doing everything right, look at some supplements to kind of help you step your game up. It's not supposed to replace working out, sleeping, eating right, stuff like that. For sure. What about you, Dave? Any takeaways from that first section? I know we spent a little time there.
That last slide there, the habit, ritual, and lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone through that same process with my business, probably 3 or 4 times. Get to the lifestyle part, and then something comes up, and I changed my whole routine, and then I'm back at the habit, forming the habits, and back through the rigmarole. But I've never done that. Never really even set goals, like, I guess, tangible goals when going to the gym.
Okay.
Like, I've been planning on doing some or interviewing some personal trainers. I want to lose somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 pounds in the next 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
But the question then comes, is that tangible?
I think it's attainable.
It is.
Yeah.
It is definitely attainable. But I'm gonna end up living at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Just to make that happen. And it's gonna end up being one of those, I got to go on a pretty extreme diet to make it happen too.
Right. So you're starting to see the logic there, right? Like, I could do 40 pounds in 3 months, but I'm gonna hate the process. I'm not gonna enjoy it. I'm not gonna stick up.
It's not gonna be sustainable though.
Right.
Because I'll lose that 40 pounds and I'll be like, I hit it. Let's go get some ice cream. I haven't had that in 3 months.
Exactly. Yep.
And then an ice cream turns into a bucket of fried chicken. A bucket of fried chicken turns into McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, whatever. And then I get on the scale 2 weeks later. I'm like, fuck.
Fuck. Right back where we started, man.
Yep.
Yeah. That's interesting, man. A couple of things stand out. Like, number one, just you kind of catching the flawed logic that you see with this type of stuff, or maybe how you've thought in the past. Like, I could do 40 pounds in 3 months, but I realize it's probably not the best thing for me now that I'm realizing this is a long game. But also, what you said about business, it's like, you'll set I think a lot of us are guilty of this. We'll set tangible goals with business because it's how we support ourselves. It's like something that's so important to us. But when it comes to our health, I'll just get back in the gym. I really just want to get back into a routine. I don't really have any goals. Like we don't take it to that level sometimes, that the same way we would with anything else that we care a lot about. So it's like the principles are going to be the same anywhere. It's just we need to apply that same logic to our health if that's something that we want to prioritize at that point in our lives. So thanks for the share, brother.
Yeah.
All right, cool. These next couple sections shouldn't take as long. I'm just going to jump in. So now we're going to get into the actual strategies, right? Like it was a lot of setup, a lot of mistakes, and all right, relating, that kind of stuff. But all right, what do I actually need to do, right? Like what are the key habits you must adopt if you want to get in the best shape of your life after 40? And guys, it's going to sound really simple because it is, and I want to keep it that way. I don't want to overcomplicate this stuff. Just simple stuff. These are the physical habits. All right, like if you did these things every day, you'd move closer to your goals. And guys, this is the same thing I tell my clients. I break it down into 4 areas: movement, water, nutrition, recovery. Movement. You should be doing some type of strength training a few times a week. If you want to sprinkle in some cardio, that's fine. A couple times a week, depending on your goals, we'll do that. Excuse me. As far as the steps, like if you I tell my guys, man, you get 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day. Like whether you're going on a walk, you walking the dog, whether you just have to actually go on a walk, whether you're passively doing that throughout the day because you work a job where you walk around a lot. Hey, you do those things, you'll be fine in terms of the movement. And notice we're not getting really into the strategies of, oh, you got to do this workout first and then this workout, like all the minutia of things that aren't really big picture stuff. I'd say just building the habits around these things is what's going to make you guys most successful. Yes, there's nuance to programming, but I think people put a lot of stock onto that stuff and they think that's what makes them successful. Having the perfect program, having the right workout, having this and that. When in actuality, it's just about how you show up on a daily basis. That's what's more important than the strategy. So second is water. For my guys, I tell them close to a gallon. Like if you're winning the day with water, that's solid. Obviously, water is good for you, but if you're drinking that much water, you're less likely to overeat. You're less likely to have cravings, but you're also less likely to drink other things because that's a lot of volume. If you're drinking a gallon of water, you're less likely to drink soda and juice because it's just where you're going to have the room, right? Nutrition. I'm not going to get too deep into the nuances of that, but what I have guys do is just track their food. I'll talk a little bit about the hierarchy of nutrition a little bit later, but just having guys track their food. I don't put people on meal plans. I don't have them like do anything crazy. We're not on keto. We're not on Whole30, paleo, nothing like that. I think just being aware of what you put in your body goes a long way. And I'll just leave it here and just be simple with this. Winning the day with nutrition. And if you want to add supplements to that, fine. But winning the day with nutrition is going to move you close to your goals. And then recovery. If we're doing all these things and we're sleeping 3 hours a night, like that's not going to do much for us. Reason why is if you're overtrained or under recovered or stressed out and you're not sleeping enough, you're not managing your stress well, then your cortisol levels are going to be higher. If your cortisol levels are higher, you're going to hold on to a lot of water weight, like where you could be doing the work, but you're not necessarily seeing that show up on the scale or in the mirror, and you end up feeling worse than you had before. So I tell my guys, man, if you can get 6 to 8 hours of sleep, I think it should be a priority. Sleep tends to be this thing that we get around to if we have the time. Sometimes, especially you work a business and you're very driven and you want to be in a million places at once. Like I've noticed those type of guys, they'll put recovery on the back burner, but I want to put it on the front burner, make it a priority. And if I know guys say they don't have the time, but I know we can find at least 6 hours of sleep. If we cut out some Netflix or we cut out some social media or whatever distractions we have going on, man, if we just prioritize these 4 things, keep it simple here: movement, water, nutrition, recovery. We prioritize these 4 things every day. We're moving closer to our goals no matter what, right? The nuances, the strategies, like at this point, I say that's irrelevant. It's neither here nor there. It matters, but it's like, we just need to be doing these things on a daily basis. And a lot of people put the cart before the horse. They're worried about supplements before they're worried about nutrition, or they're worried about what workout is best and how many times a day should I eat and this and that, where they should just be focused on doing these 4 things and just making sure these boxes are checked on a daily basis.
So I got a question real quick.
Sure.
You said, drinking up to or close to a gallon of water is going to keep you full longer. And I have the exact opposite result with that. And I consistently drink a gallon plus a day. That's one of the habits I actually got from 75 Hard.
Mm-hmm.
I failed 75 Hard twice, but
it's all good. I failed it too. It's all right.
But I did take away from that reading and
Yeah.
drinking a gallon of water a day. Because I mean, drinking a gallon at the beginning was the hardest thing I ever did. But I'm hungry constantly, like always hungry. I don't know. I don't feel water fills me up. I feel like it just goes right through me and I'm just instantly hungry.
Are you drinking a lot of water like at once, or are you spreading it out throughout the day?
Throughout the day.
Okay.
You know, I have a big 36 ounce I don't know what the hell it's called. It's one of those metal cups. And I fill it up 4 or 5 times a day.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm always hungry.
I guess your question here, Dave, is like, why does this have the opposite effect on me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Dave, I don't have like a direct answer for you because I think there's a lot to look at here. Like hunger could come from a lot of things. It could be like how much you're eating, how often you're eating. It could be like the types of foods you're eating. Like if you're eating foods that are less satiating, like higher in fats, lower in protein and carbs, there's not a lot of volume. Even though it's a lot of calories, it may not fill you up because of your eating habits. It could be recovery. Like if your sleep schedule's out of whack, I think that could contribute to it. If you're just super active, that can contribute to it. So I think there's like a lot of things to look at aside from just water. It's hard to kind of isolate that, but it's good to notice the trends of things like that.
Can you guys hear me? Well,
yeah, I can hear you, Jacob.
Okay. You know, Dave, I kind of have that same issue, and what I found that when I started counting my calories and looking at the foods I was eating, that I was actually kind of protein deficient by the end of some days, and the next days I find myself more hungry. So I found that I know that I think there's a calculator that says you're supposed to eat like 0.7 grams of protein per body weight or pound or whatnot, and I know like if I wanted to reach that, it'd be like an absurd amount right now where I'm at, but at least getting over to 200 grams of protein a day, I found that my appetite would be more suppressed and I'd be more satiated throughout the day because I think my body was designing these proteins and I wasn't giving it before, and I fill that gap with carbs and fats or whatnot.
Yeah, especially empty carbs, right? Like if it's just things that aren't filling, if we're drinking a lot of soda and things that aren't filling, same amount of calories in the day, but it's less filling. So what Jacob's saying is like very true, man. It's like higher like there's a few things that you guys can do to improve hunger. High protein. The reason high protein is slower to digest. It's a lot more in quantity. Like this much chicken breast is probably only 300 calories, but if you have this much candy, that's like 2,000 calories, or ice cream, whatever the case is. It's a lot of calories. So having that much chicken or protein is very high volume. It's going to keep you full longer. The second thing you can do is high fiber. Fiber is another form of carb that's slower to digest. Things like sweet potatoes, things like oatmeal, sometimes seeds fall in that category. Just having high fiber diet, like fruits and vegetables have a lot of fiber in them, certain ones, a lot of green vegetables. Those things digest slower, they keep you full for longer. And then the third thing you could do is just put more volume in general in your diet. Choose things that are not a lot of calories, but have a lot of volume, take up a lot of space on your plate. So those ironically end up being the same things as high protein and high fiber options. So it kind of works out. But yeah, what Jacob's saying is definitely true, man. It's like, that you'll notice when you make it an intention to have more protein in your diet, you'll find that you're less hungry because it just takes up more space and it's slower to digest. Cool. Any other questions on that stuff, like the physical side of things before we move on?
Thank you.
Cool, Dave. I'm not sure if that was helpful for you. I don't know if there's anything that you pulled out of what we said where you're like, yeah,
no, it was. Going along with what you guys are saying is one of the reasons I don't eat salad.
Yeah.
Like I could eat, a whole plate of salad. 5 minutes later, I'm hungry again.
Right.
It just goes through you. But, like what you're saying with sweet potatoes or chicken, that makes great sense. And I love sweet potatoes and chicken.
Yeah. I think people, and then this may be maybe I'm reaching here, but this may be another case where you're kind of all or nothing. Like you tell me you're all or nothing with certain things in terms of the schedule, workouts, but it's also like, I've seen it happen in diet where people are like, oh, I'm losing weight. I'm on a diet. All right, let me just eat salad. And then they eat salad and nothing else. And then they're like, damn, I'm hungry as hell. Like,
Yeah.
whereas if you had a more balanced diet, you can have rice, you can have pasta, you can have sweet potatoes, you can have all the foods that you like. It's just about doing them in the right quantities, like doing them to fill yourself up, not overeating, stuff like that. So I think for a lot of people, there's especially guys who are very like all or nothing with this stuff, huge room for opportunity, because some guys undereat, like when they're not overeating, they're undereating. So, it's a nice little balance to it.
Yeah.
Sure. All right, cool. Glad you were able to pull something out of that.
Yeah, and with like the salads, I'd find myself eating salads, but they were just like plain lettuce. But once I started adding like protein on top of that, and like other stuff that made it more, protein rich to make it more satiating, then I saw myself enjoying the salads more. And it wouldn't just run through me. And like you said, you just feel hungry an hour later.
Oh yeah, for sure. You can definitely jazz this out. Throw some chicken in there, shrimp, vegetables, like you said, protein, just nuts, cheese, like craisins, whatever fruit you want to put in there. Yeah, like you can definitely put stuff in it to make it more filling for sure, especially protein. No doubt. Seeds are good in salads, man. Yeah. But yeah, when you just like eating a sad little salad with some dressing, man, that can be, it's gonna run through you because it's just not a lot of volume to it. Not much to it.
Looking like a rabbit.
Yeah, like we don't have to eat that, man. We'll get out of here with that. So we talked about the physical habits. Now I want to talk about some self-reflection habits, because this is how you're going to stay the course with those physical habits. Like, yes, doing these things on a daily basis is going to be helpful, of course, but I think this is where people drop the ball. Like, they know what to do, but they don't do the self-reflection side of things. So I'd say, like, this is how you're going to stay on course with those habits. Most people don't get to their goals because they don't self-reflect often enough. Obviously, with New Year's coming up, most people self-reflect, a couple times a year, maybe once a quarter. New Year's being the biggest time people self-reflect. All right, what are the resolutions I set last year? Did I hit them or not? Sometimes, most times not, because they didn't self-reflect often enough. But like what Dave was talking about, where it's like, it's kind of like ADD towards a goal, right? Like 5 minutes, you have a goal, and then 5 minutes later, you forget you have the goal. Well, I think self-reflection is a great way to kind of deal with that, because sometimes you just got to remind yourself that what you want is still important. In Brendon Burchard's book, The High Performance Habits, one of the concepts he talks about is how high performers self-reflect hourly, sometimes a few times a day, just making sure that they're in alignment with their goals. They're constantly checking in with themselves, and they're keeping the main thing. Now, I think a lot of people just get flashy object syndrome, or shiny object syndrome, and they have a goal, but then they kind of sway over here and they veer off course, and then they forget that this is the goal, and they're kind of working towards the goal, but they got their hand in other things, and that's what causes them to go off track. And next thing you know, by the end of the year, by the next time they self-reflect, they've got something completely different going on, and their priorities are all out of whack. So I can't stress the importance enough of how important it is to just check in with yourself. All right, am I doing the right things? Am I doing what's still important to me? So like I said, most people don't get to their goals because they don't self-reflect often enough. It's not that they don't know what to do, it's that they're not checking in with themselves often enough. So a couple ways that I deal with this with my guys is like setting standards. And I want to differentiate the difference between standards and goals. I think goals for your activities is just like the upper end of what you want to do. Like, I want to work out every day. I want to like track my food every day. I want to be like super on point with things. I'd say standards is the bare minimum that you won't fall below, but you won't fall under. And I would say this works really good for my all or nothing guys, someone like Dave, because what happens, you wake up, you say you're going to work out at 5 a.m. on a Monday, you oversleep your alarm. Oh, well, I missed one day, so I guess I can't win the week, right? I guess I'll wait till next week. But if you have a standard in terms of what you won't fall below under, so where you kind of give yourself some wiggle room, you give yourself a range, just the fact that you have a standard to uphold, it kind of makes it a lot more manageable. So I introduced 2 standards with my guys: win the day, win the week. Like, if you ever get overwhelmed, these are the 2 things you constantly need to check in with yourselves about. Am I winning the day, and am I winning the week? So winning the day, for simplicity's sake, for my guys just starting out, like day one, winning the day just looks like drinking enough water. So like a gallon, if that's what your goal is, hitting your workout or getting active, whether it's a walk, whether it's a run, whatever cardio you have, whatever workout you have in the gym, and then tracking your food. So I don't know if y'all have ever heard of MyFitnessPal, but that's how I have my guys track their food. Just track your food. I'm not saying you got to be perfect with a meal plan, you got to follow a diet, but just get inventory of what you're doing. Get aware of what you're putting in your body, tracking your food. So if you do those 3 things, If you ever get overwhelmed, just bring it back to the basics. These are the habits that you want to build over time. Am I winning the day? Secondly is winning the week. Winning the week is just stringing together consistency of you winning the day pretty much. So winning the week, the standard I talk to my guys about is 5-3-1. The reason I go by a standard of 5-3-1 is I know it doesn't seem aligned, right? Like tracking your water, working out, tracking your food, drinking your water, working out. Yeah, you just said do those things every day. Yes, that's a best case scenario, but worst case scenario, 5-3-1. 5 days of you tracking your food. So that means you do Monday through Friday and you want to mess around on the weekends. Shoot, that's probably better than what you've been doing up to this point. 3 days of working out. 3 days is better than nothing. And for this is just one coach, get on one coaching call so that you can check in and self-reflect there. But pretty much the 5 and 3 is what I want y'all to focus on, man. If you're just doing a bare minimum of tracking your food 5 days a week, working out 3 times a week, that's going to make sure that you're winning the week. And if you string together consistency, a month, 2 months, 3 months of you hitting 5-3-1, specifically at 5 and the 3 for y'all, man, you're going to be down. You're going to be losing weight. You're going to be down 5-10 pounds in that time frame. And you're not going to feel like you're killing yourself to do it. You just feel like you're doing things that are very manageable and work within your schedule, guys. Any questions about that? Any physical habits or the self-reflection habits?
No, but you got my gears turning already.
Why? What do you mean by that?
So I have a life coach that I do weekly meetings with. Awesome. And whatnot. And at the end of each meeting, he goes, how can I help you better for next week? Uh-huh. And this slide right here is it.
Self-reflection. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Something you feel like you need to check in with him on, like
yeah, I mean that's definitely 100% easier when someone's holding you accountable.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. It's yeah, that's part of his job, I'd imagine, for you, is being a sounding board. Like, yeah, he's supposed to give you guidance and give you advice. That's what a coach does. But man, sometimes you just got to listen to what's going on with the other person, like being a sounding board. Sometimes it may just hold value because maybe you feel like you can't talk to the things you talk to him about to anyone else in your life. So maybe you go on the call with him and you're just rattling things off that's on your mind. And hey, this is what I'm working towards. And and just him being there to listen is valuable for you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Another way, like just a bonus thing, like,
but also to hold me accountable to say, no, I didn't work out 3 times this week.
Yeah.
Or no, I didn't track my food 5 days.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that's just stuff you can kind of bring up. And
because that just sucks to have to say, like, no, I didn't do what I said I was going to do.
Oh yeah. Dude, nobody wants to do that. And I tell my guys this all the time. Like, don't run and hide if you didn't do what you're supposed to do. I'm not going to be mad at you, but accountability is uncomfortable. Like, people want to run and hide when they're not doing things right. So yeah, I think that's something. I think because it's tangible, because 5-3-1 or 5-3, whatever you want to do there is tangible. You can kind of go to him and say, hey, can you hold me accountable to this? Because it's literally a yes or no question. Dude, did you work out 3 times this week? Did you track your food 5 times? Or did you stick to something 5 times a week? Yes or no? You know what I mean? It's very, very straightforward for you. It's a standard you can uphold and it's tangible. And dude, I think that'll work well for you, man. But on a self-reflection note, I was going to say, like, another thing I like to do is I journal in the morning. I've kind of made it a part of my morning routine, right? So we talked about rituals, routines, stuff like that. Writing your goals down in the morning, or gratitude, and just your 3 daily focuses for the day. Something I've found to be very helpful in terms of self-reflecting and knowing whether or not I'm on track with the goals that I've set for myself at the beginning of the year, quarter, week, month, whatever, right? So that's something I think can help. But yeah, guys, winning the day, winning the week, setting standards for yourself, super important to be in alignment with the physical habits or whatever habits you guys are trying to implement for yourselves. Jacob, any takeaways or questions for you before we move on to the last slide?
No, it all sounds pretty solid.
Okay.
For sure.
Cool.
And I should mention my phone might cut off, so if I fall off this call, I'll just let you know right now. But this is really good information, man.
Appreciate it. Hey, I appreciate you the transparency there. Yeah, we're finishing up this last part. Dave, I appreciate your takeaways as well. Try to run through it real quick. So last area is going to be the nutrition hierarchy. And this is what I teach my clients in terms of just like how we want to approach nutrition. I think guys really overcomplicate this stuff. So I'm gonna pull up the whiteboard and draw. Guys, forgive me in advance. This is gonna be a very, very terrible drawing, but I just want you guys to visualize this stuff. So it's like, all right, how should I be eating? You know, people are sometimes worried about the wrong things at the wrong time, but this is how I like to simplify things. And Jacob, I don't know what your trainer has you doing, but maybe you can compare it to what he's doing and kind of like see some of the underlying concepts. I'm not here to give you guys like a, hey, this is what you got to do strategies, more so like concepts to follow. So it's 3 levels to this pyramid. I don't know when y'all went to school, but I remember when I was in kindergarten, I remember the food pyramid, right? You got the carbs at the bottom, the breads, fruits and grains, whatever. You got your fruits and vegetables up here, protein here, oil at the top, right? This is the food pyramid I want you guys to follow because it's more in alignment with your goals. So we got how much you eat, when you, what you eat, when you eat. So 3 levels to this. Common mistake people make is they worry about the wrong thing at the wrong time. You know, they're worried about number 3 before they're worried about number 1. They're asking questions like, how many meals a day should I eat? Should I take protein after my workout? Not to say that stuff isn't important. It's just not as important as they're making it at that period of time. If you're just starting out, you want to go in order, and you don't want to worry about the next thing until you've conquered the point below it. That's the reason for this pyramid. So number 1 is the foundation, how much you eat. Like, as simple as we can put it, if you eat too much, you're going to gain weight. If you eat less, you're going to lose weight, right? And if you eat exactly like at your maintenance calories or wherever your metabolism is, you're going to maintain weight. Like, you probably eat that, like if you were to eat that same amount of calories every day, you would maintain whatever body weight you have, right? But if your goal is weight loss, we want to eat a little bit less. We want to undershoot that number just a little bit. So if we only focused on that in the beginning, you guys will see great progress if your goal is weight loss, right? Now, here's what brings us to point number 2, what you eat. Because we know, like, yeah, if you, let's say 2,000 calories for you is weight loss, or that's what weight loss looks like for you, and you eat 2,000 calories of ice cream, yeah, you could probably lose weight doing that. But at the same time, you're going to lose muscle in the process, regardless of how you're training, because the quality of what you're eating isn't good. All right, so here's where number 2 comes in. The macro balance, like how much protein you're eating, carbs and fats, and the ratios there, how much vegetables you're eating, you know, just the quality of the foods that you're eating in general, how much junk food, what's the ratio of junk food to clean/healthy foods, right? Stuff like that. And then I'd say the third area is when you eat. This is like how often you eat, how many meals a day you eat, when you eat pre and post workout. This is the type of stuff that affects performance, but is not so important to the everyday person. Like for athletes and just priming performance in the gym, like if you're a competitor, I'd say this stuff is pretty important. But for most people just trying to lose weight and make it sustainable with their lifestyle, I just say eat to your schedule. Worry about 1 and 2. Number 3 is kind of optional if you get to that advanced level where you want to optimize your performance, but it's not as important as people make it. Like whether you eat breakfast or you skip breakfast, whether you eat before bed or you don't eat before bed, whether you stop eating at 6, whether you do intermittent fasting. Number 1 and number 2 is going to be the most important principles to follow. And number 3, like I said, is just optional if you've gotten to that level when you're like, all right, let's kick it up a notch. Let's make things a little more optimal. Because here's the thing. I don't care about the optimal diet. I care about what you guys can stick to consistently, not just for a day, not just for a week, not just for 75 hard, but for life, right? So this is the order I want you guys to think about this stuff. How much you eat, what you eat, when you eat. And this is like one of the first things I teach guys like day 1 when they're coming in. Yeah. So that about does it in terms of the actual presentation. And just to reiterate why this stuff is important, like I think going about it this way is it's going to cause you to be objective about your food. You're not going to be as rigid. You're going to be more flexible with your diet. It's still going to get you to your goals, and it's sustainable because you actually enjoy it. And then going about it this way simplifies the process, right? I think guys follow meal plans, they follow restricted diets, and it feels rigid and it makes you not want to do it because it's rigid. But what if you could apply this principle and on vacation, you could still lose weight, or you travel for a work conference and you don't have to worry about what you can and can't eat. You can still enjoy time with your family on the weekends. You can go on a date, whatever it is that you want to do. You can still enjoy yourself and still get to your goals because you're applying these concepts, not just the right or wrong strategy, if that makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that about does it in terms of actual presentation. I do want to get some takeaways or open it up for Ask Me Anything. I know, Jacob, your phone's probably going to die at some point, but if I didn't answer any of your questions at this point, like, dude, this is time for y'all to just ask whatever. It doesn't even have to be about what we discussed today, just fitness in general. Like, just curious to hear takeaways and questions at this point, man? We'll wrap it up.
I got a question for you. On a, weight loss workout plan, is it feasible to think that you can just do lifting and no cardio?
Absolutely.
And then are there downsides to doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say there's a downside in just like if you're somebody who cares about your cardiovascular conditioning, there's probably things that you're going to get out of just doing cardio, like maybe getting on the bike or getting on the treadmill. Like I think there's some things in terms of training adaptations that you can get from cardio that you wouldn't get from training weights. But strictly from a weight loss perspective, which is what it sounds like here, you probably wouldn't miss anything just doing strength training. Like I have guys, I can show you, they only do strength training 3-4 times a week and they probably go on walks. But a majority of that weight loss comes from the dieting and just building the muscle over time to improve the metabolism passively. And long story short, you can still lose weight without doing cardio. I look at cardio as just icing on the cake, if that makes sense. Like, hey, you want to kick it up, you want to add some things, that's fine. So does that answer your question, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for you, man, I know you said you don't like cardio. Dude, you could lose the weight you want to lose just doing strength training and watching your diet, not being extreme with it, taking it slow and steady, but you don't have to be extreme with anything. You don't have to throw in a ton of cardio to burn calories or feel like you worked hard and sweat, stuff like that. So
I one of the reasons I hate cardio so much is, I could sit there and run for an hour and burn 250 calories, or I could go do an hour of strength training and burn 500.
Right. And build muscle.
Yeah, and build muscle. Like it just seems like there's better things I could be doing with my time, even though it's boring as shit either way.
Right. Yeah, man. And if you're busy, and that's my point, man, you want to be effective with your time. And people have the same mentality with dieting. They're like, they'd rather work really hard on the treadmill than just eat 200 less calories. Like, dude, burning 200 calories in the gym takes forever, where you could just not eat the 200 calories and be in the same spot without the fatigue. So it's like, man, you're right, dude. I think in terms of just time efficiency, getting the most bang for your buck, if your goal is to like have a nice physique and put on some muscle while losing weight, yeah, dude, do strength training a few times a week. Doesn't mean don't do cardio ever. I'm just saying if you had to choose.
Well, I mean, I also have 4 kids too, so chasing their happy asses around is good cardio.
Right. Yeah. So you get in some type of workout between cutting down trees, running around the yard. Yeah. Now we just got to do the strength training in the gym.
Yeah.
Cool, Dave. Now, dude, I appreciate you even just hopping on this late and on a Wednesday like this, right before the holidays. Jacob, I don't know whether or not he sees the end of this replay. Appreciate him too. I'm sure his phone died, but dude, any other questions?
No, I don't have any more questions, man. I want to thank you for having this. Like I was saying at the beginning, I'm to the point that I'm just tired of seeing the body that I have. It's not the body that I want, and it's to the point it's just depressing. Mm-hmm. And I got a lot of great takeaways from this, which I greatly appreciate.
For sure.
Thank you.
Hey man, I appreciate you showing up.